Hello and welcome back to the Global Flow series. I'm so excited today to have Tepsii all the way from South Africa. How are you doing, Tepsii? Can you hear me?
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I love it. We might have a tiny bit of a
I
delay.
could hear you.
I love it. So I'll wait. If I ask my question, I'm going to wait and give you a second. Oh, hang on. We've been talking about this. We might actually just stop the video and see if that makes it better. All right. All
Okay.
right, we're gonna go for it with videos off, guys. We're not doing too well. I'm in Sydney and you're in Pretoria, South Africa. So we'll go with videos off and see how we go. So let me just introduce her officially, so you know exactly who she is and why it's going to be so important to be here for the rest of this interview. So Tepsii is a soulful business strategist and copywriting teacher who helps entrepreneurs with authentic communication strategies to attract clients and who are ready to make serious moolah online, create the oh so coveted freedom lifestyle they've always dreamed of. She has been a sought-after professional writer in the corporate space for 12 years, using her Bachelor of Science from a top university in New England to write scientific, engineering, aviation, and other technical documentation, bracket snooze fest, seriously. Um, she's ditched the boring 9 to 5 where she was making someone else's dreams come true to make her own. She's now found her sweet spot to help entrepreneurs create businesses they truly love. And I love it. I love it. Wow, that actually almost sounds more boring than my job as an accountant. And I thought I was going to win the competition for having the most boring job, but I think you do pretty well.
What did you used to do?
I was a chartered accountant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's up there. It's up there.
It's up there, right? Um, so I'd love to know a little bit more about your story and how you've ended up obviously studied in New England and now you're living in South Africa. Can you just tell us a bit more about who you are and how that journey started?
Yeah, so I was born here in South Africa, back in a time where we had a government instituted racial prejudice and racism called apartheid. And at that time, there weren't that many opportunities for people with brown skin. Any skin that was not considered Caucasian, you kind of were grouped into the other. And we had different opportunities and different places to live and different schools and things like that. And I was born to really ambitious parents and grandparents on both sides who really valued education and loved, it seems like they were addicted to education. So my starting with my grandfather, my uncles, my aunts, my parents all pursued higher education. And out of I think I've probably got 8 uncles total, and 6 of them have PhDs. So my mom was one of the only girls, and so she was influenced by her family, and she loved school. So we ended up going to the U.S. for her to study when I was 6, and I stayed in the U.S. for 26 years until 2015, when I had managed to, with a little baby under my arm who was 6 months old and a poopy toddler who would not, she just refused to potty train. And then I had a 9-year-old that I was taking back and forth on the carpool. And so because of those 3 people being born, I was like, oh my gosh, I was frazzled. I was everywhere. And so I decided that I really had to start my business and go for it on my own, because it just didn't make sense for me to go into the office. I just couldn't do it. So starting in South Africa, moving to Vermont, where I grew up, ending up in Washington, D.C., where I worked and lived last, and then coming all the way back here to South Africa, really because for me, it was a homecoming and it was a chance to fulfill my dream. You know, you always make a bucket list of all the things that you want to achieve. And one of them was for me to move home. And I just couldn't do it with the career I had. Nobody would hire me. I was unemployable, I guess. So I had to make something of my own, employ myself, and come back.
Oh my goodness. What an inspirational story. I love that. And I thought you were going to tell me you'd moved to the US for you to study, but it was for your mom to study, which I think is just amazing. I really I love that. And I think it's really it's just an inspirational, beautiful story. So how's it been? So you've been back in South Africa for how long now?
So we came back in August 2015, and it's been incredible. We are so happy here. My family lives very close by. Like my aunt and uncle live 3 minutes away. My dad lives downstairs. And so living in the same house with him is just an awesome opportunity for my kids, because I never got to know my grandparents very well or spend a lot of time with them because we lived so far away. So my business has, people talk about, oh, I want a laptop lifestyle because I want to buy Louis Vuitton and all these things. And for me, it was really, I want this laptop lifestyle so I can give my kids the gift of family, like close by family, and experiences. Life here in South Africa means that, at any time we can hop off to the zoo, or not to the zoo, to a safari, the real life zoo.
Right? Seriously.
Or to the beach, or to do different things. And it's an amazing opportunity to do this using my business as a vehicle.
Oh my gosh, it's so inspirational. I've been to South Africa a couple of times. I have family down there, and it's just incredible. And to be able to go, I went on safari when I was 10 years old, and it's my sister was turned 10 and I think I must have been 11. And we had the best time. We still talk about that holiday. So,
Wow.
so it was a long time ago. I did go back when I was 30 again, and it was just so much fun. So, I really love it and connect with that. But
next time I'm going to have to invite you here.
I know. Well, if I'd known, actually, no, that was 2010. I think I was there last. So it's been a little while. No, maybe it was 2011. Anyway, not relevant. But what is relevant is flow. And to kick off this conversation, I just want to ask you, and it gives a little bit of context to the rest of it. And I've been saying to everybody, I haven't heard the same definition of flow twice, which is really quite amazing. I love it. What does flow mean to you specifically?
So for me, flow is kind of a meditative state. It's like the moment where, you go into your zone of genius. You kind of set up your little atmosphere for yourself, maybe turn on some candles and just go into your body. And for me, my work comes from, I believe it comes from God. It comes from my center. So I've got to really connect to myself and connect to spirit in order to feel that sense of flow. And when I'm in flow, the words, I'm a copywriter and a copywriting teacher and business strategist. And when I'm in flow, I'm able to come up with genius ideas, and I write in a way that I don't even remember that I wrote. So I just wrote a sales page for a client last week, and I went back to look at it, and make a few edits. And I really cannot even remember writing that thing because I was in a Zen meditative situation when I was writing it. That is a beautiful feeling to have, instead of struggling or fighting with the words, or, staring at a blank screen and just feeling like crying. The words are just flowing through your fingertips, straight from source onto your keyboard.
Wow. Okay. So I've experienced this a few times, and I think most of the time now when I write, but I don't have to write nearly as often as you do. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here is because I am pretty much in awe of copywriters. When I first started this beautiful journey into entrepreneurship, I joke, but it's also true, to write one of my first sales pages, I literally sat with a ginormous bottle of wine, not even just a regular size, a really big one. And I think there was already a glass out of it or something, but I pretty much finished the rest of it just to get over myself enough to get my words on the page. So I don't, that's one way of getting into flow, and I don't recommend it. But to be able to, and I was like, oh, thank God, I probably won't have to do that for another 6 months. But it felt like it didn't come easily. what am I trying to say? So how do you get, one, let's take it back one step. So what do you see as the main reasons why people struggle or fight with the words, like I was when I was needing a whole bottle of wine to write my sales page?
So I think a lot of people put pressure on themselves, and we come from a society where you've been judged for everything, right? And it can be good and it can be bad. So in some ways, you're graded, in school, and you were a chartered accountant. That meant you had to take a lot of tests, and that things had to be perfect, right? And if they weren't, they would pick apart every last thing that you had, done on your paper, whether it was numbers or words, right? And so we come to it with this kind of post-traumatic stress disorder for writing and for doing things that we know that the world is going to see. We're going to put it out on the stage, and now maybe I'm going to be inviting a whole bunch of judgment, and the feelings that I had in the past and the fear that I had in the past is coming, washing over you. And the cool thing about writing copy is, number one, nobody's really judging you. Nobody has time to pick you apart. They have stuff to do. They've got kids, they've got a life, they got a boyfriend or girlfriend. They don't have time. When we write copy, we want to write conversationally. So it sounds like one friend talking to another friend and just answering their questions about this program or this product that they have a desire to buy. So I always say, the people that I work with and people I talk to a lot are, many of them coaches, and they're masters at what you do. And I've experienced your work, and I know you're a master at that.
Oh,
and
thank
so
you.
coaching is just coaching is just another form of copywriting. It's a way of coaching a person into becoming their best self. Your writing and your sales page is coaching your prospective buyer into making the best decision for themselves based on the pain that they're having in their life and the solution that they desire to achieve with your help. And so I like people to just take the pressure off of themselves and forget about the academics, forget about, having perfect grammar. I just like you to follow the format. And, if you have any access to copywriting guides, I have a course called The Right to Profit. And in there, I just give people templates, and just follow the template, and you will, that's basically your yellow brick road. And if you follow that, you will be successful. And I've seen people start with me who told me people laughed at them for what they wrote. One of my clients said, I was once ridiculed and told I write like a high schooler, and that people don't understand what I'm writing when I write. And that was about June last year in 2016. And by August, working with me in my course, she is now writing so well, I would hire her to write my copy, because we just, gave her confidence and the tools and the templates, and boom, she flies.
Wow. Yeah. When you start to realize there's like a formula in a way, it does become a lot easier. What are some of the ways you could even find, apart from obviously do your course, which would be one fabulous way? Can you tell us a little bit about how you could write? So you use a lot of templates, but you also taught a lot about authenticity and being yourself. How do you put those two things together and come out with something that's really still authentic? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So authenticity to me is really just about showing up as who you truly are. If you have vulnerabilities, don't be afraid that people are going to judge you for them. You can, share some of your vulnerabilities. That's okay. So with the authenticity part, I really like to get people to use their authenticity when they talk about who they are and where they come from, and as part of their copywriting. So that's like their storytelling. And in your story, you can talk about your failures. You can talk about what's happened before you got to this point. You can talk about what it felt like to have no clients, or, you can even talk about stories that have happened to you in your past. In some of my sales pages, I mentioned the pain of being an employee. I had this jerk boss named Dick, and he would never let me call him Richard. always insisted on being homesick, and it drove me nuts. And I really did not like that experience. And so I kind of took that and made it humorous and funny and fun and put that in one of my sales pages. That's my authentic story. That's who I am. That's where I came from, the corporate world. And I just talked to you about my experience with sick. On the other hand, I've got some vulnerable, very painful things that have happened. And I've been able to transform those things, like the death of my mom, or a failed marriage that ended up in abuse. And I use those as part of my copy because I want to let people know I'm a human being. I'm just like them. I come from where they've come from, and I've used the tools that they probably are using in their life to overcome those situations. So that's when I bring in the authenticity and the rawness and the realness. And if you have a hard time telling those stories on paper, typing them out or writing them out, I always encourage people to just get a tape recorder, or get your phone out and hit record and just tell your story into the phone and have that transcribed. Or tell a friend who can kind of give you a synopsis of what you've said. Or of course, get your copywriter if you've got one, they can do the same thing. But bringing in your true real life stories is what separates your brand from somebody else's brand. And it separates what you do, because there's so many of us who are coaches and copywriters and health and wellness people. And so now, how am I going to attach myself emotionally to you and what you do? It's through your story. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's the first part, the authenticity. And then with the templates, it's just knowing where where that story fits in the series, the persuasion series that you're using. So step one is, introducing your offer and letting people know, what's for sale. Step two is reassuring them and letting them know that even if, they've had struggles before, that they're in the right place and you can help them, and they shouldn't be judging themselves for feeling bad that they haven't overcome this. And then step three, that's where you introduce yourself and say who you are. And that's your chance to, plug in your authenticity. And step four is when you share your offer and talk about how you came to create this offer and why you created this offer, who you've helped with this offer. And again, another chance for you to inject some of your story and your authenticity in there as you talk about your offer. And then in step 5, you're asking for the sale. That's your call to action, and letting people know this is how you buy. Click this button, go to this place, arrange this call with me, whatever it is that your call to action is. And if you can just know where to plug those different steps in and just follow the steps that I share, then you can use your authenticity and your template together hand in hand to create a beautiful life.
Oh, that sounds, that makes it sound a lot easier than I maybe made it before. Are there different types of templates for different things? Obviously that sounded a bit more like, is that like a standard sale one you just mentioned, or like, are there different templates for different types of things?
So I always teach that you should never miss the opportunity to ask. I always have this hashtag that's ask for the damn sale. Because I work with so many people who are so scared to ask for the sale. And I remember doing a call in one of my private programs. I have a mastermind program. And in there, my students were like, oh, I'm so afraid, I have created all this stuff. I had one student who was writing tons of blog posts, and she wrote like 5 sales pages, and she wrote her website up, and she just was not releasing anything. So I went on a rant, a beautiful, loving rant about asking for the damn sale. So every page on your website is an opportunity to sell yourself. And I say sell with soul, of course. You don't want to be the salesy person that's shoving things down people's throat, but you want to use the persuasion sequence to let people know who you are, what you do, and how you do it, and why you do it on every page. And it doesn't have to be all long like a sales page, but on your homepage, people do need to know what you're doing. They do need to know why this is for them. They do need to know, why you really quickly. They do need to know how to get in touch with you and what your offers are. And they need to know that on your about page. They need to know that on your work with me page. They need to know that on even your media or your bio pages, whatever you've got going on. They should always know how they can actually say yes to your ask for the damn sale. So there are different templates, and I have created different templates in my programs for people to follow, but they all do essentially the same thing, and they all should have those 5 steps that I outlined before.
I love it. I love it. I've seen this so often in my clients as well. Just really, and this was me in the first 6 months of my business. I really didn't want to ask for the sale or put my prices up or what I charged or any of that kind of stuff. I was just mortified. And when you shift that and you realize that it's actually an act of disservice not to offer, it just changes everything. And when I was like, oh my God, I actually help people with my stuff. Like it's like I can actually change their life and stuff. You know, it's like,
I mean, I had an Akashic Records reading with you, and in that reading, we talked about some really personal things, and it allowed me to make decisions in my life that I otherwise would have not felt so empowered to make, right? And so, of course, you're helping people, and by holding back, I always say to one of my clients, who's also one of my students, one of my students who's in a couple of my programs, she actually, she knew this really simple thing about how to integrate something with Asana and some other app and bring it all together and make sure that your calendar was all in sync with your, your folder, your Google Drive, and, Slack and all these things, and how to make it all work really effortlessly. And so when she told me, I was like, oh my gosh, why don't you talk about this? Why don't you teach this? And she's like, I figure everybody knows this already. I'm like, no.
I'm like, what is that?
We have no idea. We need so much help. We are so stuck, and you're holding it to yourself. You have all these like magical secrets. Like you're like, I think of her as like a magical fairy living in this amazing land. And now she's holding back all this stuff from people who need it and who are willing and ready to buy it. Right. So just overcoming those feelings and remembering when you were in corporate, you had no problem on payday if your check didn't come through, going into HR and being like, hey, my check didn't come through, right? You expected to be paid for what the gifts that you were giving. And so bring that same expectation into your business.
I love that. I love that. I'm like, yeah, I'd have been like, excuse me? What's going on here? Yeah, no, I think it's something that it's not addressed enough. And I'll have people come to me and, they're like, I think I might have a money block, or, something's not working in my business. I'm doing everything right. I'm doing all these things. And I'm like, and when was the last time you actually asked for a sale? And it's like, and even compared to some people, I don't do it nearly as much as some people out there. So yeah, I probably could even take a slight dose of my own medicine on this one as well. So
me too.
Right? It's like, it's so much easier to say than done. But yeah, I think it's so relevant, and we need to be doing it more. So I want to come back for a moment, if it's okay, to the flow state. And I am like really curious how you get yourself, because this is the gold, right? This is what everybody is seeking, everybody wants. And I actually had a conversation today I went to get Rolfed. I don't know if you're there. It's a weird form of massage, but it's not massage. And I know, it's really good actually. He gets right into your fascia, and he actually changes that. So he changes all your posture and realigns your body. So I was like, if I'm aligning everything else, I need to align my body as well. It's really, if anyone's check it out, get Rolfed. Anyway, but we were actually talking about flow with him, and he said he feels a connection to God when he's in flow. And then you've said it again today. And I think we need to obviously talk about this if it's the second time I've heard it. So how the heck, first of all, do you get into that place?
I feel like I'm always kind of connected to God, but sometimes I forget, and like I forget to actually actively be engaged in that. So a simple thing like saying a prayer, or like having a ritual where you come in and you sit down and you say a prayer. I have a coach who will say, during beginning of our calls, and I do this as well in my calls, but I love how she does it, so I'm going to adopt it more. Dear God, please allow Tepsii and I to connect, and for the right things to happen in this session together, for her to get as many clear answers as possible, and for her to be able to take these clear answers and go along on the journey for the rest of her day, using this divine guidance. And so, just that simple prayer just opens up the atmosphere. And I do it by myself. I'll say, dear God, please guide me as I'm getting ready to write the sales page. I have resistance sometimes. I don't feel like doing it. I would rather go and, I don't know, play with my kids downstairs, whatever it is that I want to do right now. But if I am just asking for an hour of pure flow, because I know I can get this all done in an hour. If other times, if I'm dragging it on, it can take me 5 hours, right? But if I'm in flow, it can take me an hour. So I pray for those things. And I love my coach that I work with for, also doing that during our sessions. And now I've adopted it into my sessions as well. And so, part of it is prayer. Part of it is, the morning routine in the morning, journaling and meditating and, going into that state where you can calm down your body, clear the cortisol and that, stress response that you've got going on that we all do at any given time because of the world we live in, and allow your body to be chill as you go into your work. For me, that really works. And along with the chill, sometimes I'll be feeling great and zenned out and whatever, but I also like to give myself a spurt of energy. So I'll run around my house or do a bunch of jumping jacks or do something like with my copywriting clients. I start with, people might think I'm crazy, but we start with a breathing exercise. I have them breathe in and out 5 times as slowly as possible. So we're like doing this breathing exercise for almost a minute, right? And then after we breathe, I have them stand up out of their chair and I guide them in some stretching and some yoga poses. And then we sit down and we start our process together as client and, writer or coach, whatever role I'm taking in that time.
Oh my goodness. I love all this. It's something I was doing and I wasn't consciously aware, but every morning, especially if I have a client day or even for these interviews, I've literally been in bed. I do it in bed, but I don't know where anybody else does it. And I'm like, please, let today go with ease and grace. Let everybody get what they need. Show me the way. And I don't know, but I'm pretty convinced, even in my coaching and in my work, it's guided by something else. It's not me thinking it up. Especially when people get breakthroughs or I just know which question to ask next. I don't think it's me.
It's amazing, right? And Marianne Williamson says it really, really beautiful. She says, in this day and age, a lot of us go into meetings and people will pep you up and say, what do you want out of this meeting? What's your intention for this meeting? What do you want? What do you want? And intention, not in the flow state of let's set beautiful intentions, but it's this hard, fast intention, right? And she says, what she learned from the spiritual practice she does, which is called A Course in Miracles, is that, the intention is for us to both be at our highest and best good. And for the God inside me, for me to be connected to God, and for you to be connected to God, and for the God in both of us to meet, one human soul to another human soul. And if that is your intention, for both of us to meet and get the highest good possible, then that is actually where the flow and the juices and the great, awesome stuff is going to happen for you in your life, in your business, whatever it is. So if you're, meeting a client or you're doing a discovery call, if you can set that intention, or if you're going on a date, if you can set that intention, whatever it is that you're doing in your life, start with, meeting the highest good for both of your souls.
Oh, I love that. I feel like it's the next step beyond goal setting. I think we try and dictate too much what we want, what we need to have next, what our goals are, and to sort of almost take a step back and be more guided by spirit. Do you have an opinion on that?
I absolutely believe in goal setting. If I didn't, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But it's it's all about what I used to do with my goals before was before I met my life coach, I would just set these goals without thinking how I wanted to feel, without thinking how I
Mm.
wanted others in my life to show up and how I wanted them to feel, without thinking about, is this going to be the best and highest good for everybody around me? I would just be like, these are my goals. I want this kind of car and I want this kind of handbag and I want this kind of experience. I want to go on these trips. But now I can go, I want to go on this trip because I want to feel this way. Now, then I can go back and look at these goals and go like, oh, well, that one doesn't really align with me. Like, for example, do I really want to buy that handbag? I really don't care about that handbag. I really, really don't. I've got enough bags here. That handbag is not going to make me feel more of anything. It's not going to make me feel more alive or more excited, more joy, more ease. The goals that I have for myself, that handbag doesn't really meet anymore. So I can let it go.
Mm. I love it. I love it. I actually went to see Danielle Laporte 2 nights ago. And, obviously she does the desire map, and that's all about the feelings that we're actually seeking, which I really love. And again, I don't think we talk enough about the feelings behind the goals. I think it's just so, so important.
Yeah, and if you think about the law of attraction, that's, I think Danielle Laporte really found a way to translate the law of attraction to us millennials and, to the mainstream people who just didn't really get it. And so she found a way to use language that allows you to pinpoint it. So I love her work, definitely.
Mm-mm. She brought 2,000 people out to see her in Sydney when she came. I was like,
Wow.
bowled over. Yeah, it was super impressive. It was a really good night, actually. So I love it. So we're setting intention. So by saying a prayer, maybe creating some sort of ritual. What kind of rituals do you use?
So I've always been one to burn a candle. I love my essential oils. I,
Mm.
like to say a prayer. I like to keep gemstones near me. I can really feel their energy when I pick them up. And so I like to have them around. I've got my, my salt lamp, and, I really just like to keep my space where I'm writing really beautiful and clear. It's part of the ritual. It's just clearing the stuff away. And I also have recently started a practice that I learned from this man who got a calling to become a South African. The ethnic group is called Xhosa. So he became a Xhosa shaman, and he actually, in that tradition, in that lineage that he was taught, he's actually just a guy that's half Scottish, half English, but he got this calling to go do this. And I went and took his retreat a couple of weeks ago. And at the retreat, he taught us about, breathing. And when you breathe, you're listening to your heart. And the goal is to just hear the little drummer inside. And I think so many of us in the Western culture don't hear our heartbeat. And so many of us, because we don't hear our heartbeat, we don't have much rhythm. We can't even dance because we can't hear that, And so he taught us to start by, one, listening to your heartbeat. Two, then he actually brought out a drum and had us dancing and in these beautiful ways that just it wasn't about anybody else but you and God, and just expressing yourself and feeling that heartbeat, the little drummer inside, kind of in sync with that drum that he was beating. And I just thought that was really, really beautiful. And then he also taught us this ritual of just saying thank you and gratitude, not just for the things you have, not just for the people that are in your life now, but also to your ancestors and to the people who came before you for what they've done and the path that they cleared out for you before you got here. And whether or not you love your ancestors, whether or not you like your parents, your mother, father, grandparents, that's not the point. The point is just to have gratitude, because they're the vehicle that brought you here. And so I've been kind of incorporating some of that stuff this guy taught me. His name is John Lockley. And I'm just really feeling more alive than ever. And I was at the point when I went to that retreat of feeling burnt out and anxious and all these things. And it kind of just brought me back to my center, listening to my heartbeat, the little drummer inside, feeling a lot of gratitude and kind of doing that every morning as a ritual is like flow inducing with the dancing and everything.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. I've been doing a lot of that kind of work, and I've actually started my Shaman Studies. I had another lesson today.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I'm like really getting into all this stuff. It's so fun. And I'm so glad that you're embracing that and going to see this guy. And I think it's hilarious that he's half Scottish. But yeah.
It is. It's crazy. And he actually endures a lot of prejudice because people are like, what's this white guy doing trying to teach me about this? And what he teaches, he calls it like African Zen and African mysticism. And for me, it's been really empowering because, you hear of all these other traditions, Buddhism and all these things. But like, I never really knew as an African person what our traditions and how things, are expressed because of the legacy of, missionaries and apartheid that I talked about. Our culture is really suppressed. And so I'm learning from this Scottish white guy about African mysticism, about what, dreaming and dream interpretation and, African dancing and drumming and all this stuff. And I just felt like, wow, this is amazing. It's an amazing opportunity.
I love it. I love it. And it's almost like the messenger doesn't even matter who they are. Like you'll get what you need from it. And that's one of the most important things. You
Absolutely.
mentioned we sort of, and again, like I think we've maybe mentioned this once in one of the other interviews, but I just think it's really important to talk about it in case somebody missed the last one or they didn't hear it for whatever reason. But you said you keep a really clear space. Do you mean just energy or like tidy, or like what do you mean by that exactly?
So the space, the writing space that I'm in, I can't have anything in front of me. I like to have it just completely clear. I like to put things where they go. And, if you're a student of the law of attraction, like one of the things is, clear your space, but also clear your mental space. And I recently learned Reiki.
Oh,
And
me too.
I'm using that. Oh, we have so much in common. I'm using that to clear myself. So this morning before we came here, I had some anxious energy, some feelings that I'm resolving, some relationships that are, playing out their course, and some just like business stuff happening. And I said to myself, I can't come to this experience. We're talking about flow. I can't come to this with all that energy. I've got to come to this clear. So, doing the Reiki on myself, doing EFT as well alongside the Reiki. I'm like throwing every tool I can at it because why not? If you have, the ability and you can access the tool, use it to your disposal. Be your own healer, your own guide. Because yes, I love going to the healers and I love going to the guides, but what happens when they're booked or they're not, they're just not there? You have to know how to deal with yourself, your emotions, your energy, and how to bring yourself back up to a high vibration so you can meet the world with wonderful energy. I'm a really high, positive, energetic person, and the last thing I would want to do is show up any space, not my full self, right? And so that's for my work, that's for my interviews, that's for meeting with clients, that's meeting with people in real life, that's really important. So clearing, I just clear everything. And in fact, I made my bedroom all white and all my stuff is all white because I just want everything to just look clear and clean.
And that's going to help drop the chaos and all of and the cortisol as well, right? I think people don't realize how much stress and clutter can cause, clutter can cause stress, even at sort of underlying levels. And that's the next thing. We've kind of touched on it a couple of times, but again, I want to just highlight it again because it's been such a point that we've made, but we haven't really made it either, right? And that was, and when you said about your definition of flow, you said it's about going into your body. And you've mentioned a few times about moving your body and the breath work. Can you explain to people why they have to get into their body and not be in their head to be in flow and to write amazing copy?
So when I first started my business, I realized very quickly that I attract the smartest people. And they're like you. I've got chartered accountants. I've got rocket scientists, two of them who've worked on NASA engineering teams. What is the likelihood? Two women. I've got tons of lawyers, scientists of all different types, people who've been CEOs of their companies and in the corporate world. Just so none of my clients I can say is like, oh, this person is an overnight sensation that just happens to be lucky, right? They all have worked and been using their brain power so massively in order to get here. And most of them had this like aha moment along the way where they were like, I'm just in the wrong thing. I have been following the wrong path. And so that's why they start, into the online entrepreneurship world and coaching and things like that. But they're so used to using that analytical side of themselves. They're so used to judging themselves. They're so used to filtering their language. So everything they say, they want to judge. And they're so used to being the student, studious. They want to come into our sessions with a notepad and a pen and to be writing everything down. And when I'm writing their copy, I'm your scribe. You don't need to write anything down. I'm doing it for you. So step back with all of that, type A energy and just show up. And so I tried to explain that to the first few people, and they would just look at me like puzzled. And so I had to find another way to get them out of that space immediately as soon as we get on the phone. And so I kind of hit it. I don't tell them that this is what we're going to be doing. I just hit them with it when they come on the call. I'll say, hey, I tell them beforehand, make sure you're hydrated because I want you to have feel good in your body. I tell them wear comfortable clothes and be ready to just chill. Whether you're going to be lying down in our session or whatever you're going to be doing, you're not going to have to be super active because I want you to speak from your heart. And then they go like, how do I do that? I don't know how to talk from my heart. Well, if we move your body, if we get you breathing, if we get you flowing, from head to toe, that is when you start to access your heart. And so now all of a sudden they can tell me things and tell me stories and tell me their true heart's desire without a filter, without judgment, without, putting their own limits on their possibilities. They just are able to just do it freely because they're in their body.
Love, 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 love. So important, so important. And something you would not be shocked that I have struggled with as well. Total.
Yeah, because you're so smart and you're so, accomplished, and you've just had to. That's how you survived in the world. You had to act from that headspace, right? And that's why now, women like you and I are seeking out these alternative ways of being and Reiki and, studying with shamans and other things, because now we realize the importance of connecting to our heart. And I literally feel like I'm going to die if I'm not connected to my heart. Like it's either physically, I'm not going to, have breath anymore, or emotionally or mentally, I'm just not going to be present. Right. And it's either do or die. I'm not ready to die. So I'm going to do.
Right. I was like, what? I can feel my heart. I have to open my heart. Are you kidding me? Yes, this is what's the process for me. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. I'm like, I can't feel that in my body. But now I'm like, yeah, I have a session today with one of my healers, and I'm like, oh yeah, I totally feel that in my heart center, and I'm like, it's so dramatically different. It's hilarious. And I clear energy now and I yawn a lot when I clear energy, and so we're sitting on this call and I'm just yawning like crazy. It was like, oh, we're shifting, and I was just like, I can feel it, and that's new, not new, but that was certainly not the way. I just didn't feel it before, and I certainly wouldn't have been shifting it through my body that way.
Right. And you didn't know, maybe you could feel it before, but you didn't really know what was going on or how to access it when you needed it. Right. And that's the difference.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is all just such good stuff, and we're so on the same page. I knew you would be and sometimes I bring people on and I'm like, I'm going to ask you questions because I know what I want you to say. That kind of I was like, all right, let's talk about this thing. One other piece I really want to know about is, you mentioned again in your definition of flow, zone of genius, and for people to be in that. And I think it's so important in flow for people to be highly skilled at what they're doing to be able to get in there, because if you are second guessing, judging yourself, it's much harder to stay in your body. How would you help somebody, or how would you even describe to somebody what their zone of genius is and how they could get in there?
So for me, my zone of genius is kind of like, you know, that diagram where it's like your experience and your passion, and then what people are willing to pay for, and that whole thing comes together. Well, sometimes your zone of genius is just like for me, it's a funny thing. I am a really gifted communicator, and I used to not be able to say that. I used to not be able to say that out loud. It was last year, 2016, when I could actually say out loud, I'm a good writer and I'm a good communicator. Before, I just was like, I'm just winging it. And now I'm like, no, God has granted me a gift and I honor this gift, right?
Yeah.
But I'm good at that. I'm excellent at it. But then I've got other things that I'm also interested in. And so I want people to understand that you can have multiple passions and multiple things that you're good at, but there's one thing that comes probably easier than anything to you, and it happens without even thinking. For me, that's writing. Obviously, like I said, it happens almost like, you know, God is typing and my fingers are just moving, right? And then it's done. Boom, I have a finished result. Now, the other things that I love doing are, I love coaching. I love talking about mindset. I love talking about money. I love inspiring people. So those are just things that kind of accompany me in my zone of genius. But whenever I try to step out and I'm like, I don't want to do copy anymore. I don't, it's just not my thing. Well, I mean, come on, it's your thing, Tepsii, come on. So if I try to push out of that and not do it, things don't go as well. So I always have to have like a mix of that thing that just flows effortlessly for me. And then, I can have these other interests and these other beliefs and these other tools, but they don't have to be the thing that I monetize, right? They can just be my passion. And just understanding that you can have a passion and you can also have the thing that you monetize, and that you should be enjoying both of them, right? You should be enjoying it while you do it, because that's flow. If you're not enjoying it, you're pushing in resistant energy and it's not going to work for very long. Maybe you'll be able to do it for a year or two, and then, you're not going to be able to access it anymore. You're going to wonder why you're miserable. So, your zone of genius is really where you feel good, where you're good at what you're doing, and where you just feel, you wake up in the morning, feel like it's not work. It's, a pleasure and an opportunity for you to express the highest self, your highest self.
I love that. And I see people all the time like caught up in, but I want to do this and this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, let's just focus on one thing at the moment. I love that.
Yeah. And if you can focus on one and you can get it going really well, then I invite you to then, look at the next venture that you can do. But you don't see really successful people out there who will tell you, I started 5 businesses at once and they all succeeded.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never heard that. Oh my goodness. I love it. This has been so good, so informative. And I know I'm going to implement a couple of extra things into my day and into my process to create more flow. And I think the ritual piece is beautiful. And like, I have candles and stuff in my office, but I don't always light them or go into that place quite so consciously. I think there's another layer for me there. And I really appreciate everything you've shared. It's been so fun.
I've really enjoyed this opportunity because, the things that we talk about and that we teach, we talk about them and teach them because we are the number one student, right? We really need to learn them.
Absolutely.
So talking to you really, for me, confirms that I'm on the right path, that it's not by accident that I meet people who are doing the exact same thing that I'm doing. It's by divine guidance, and that I'm right where I'm supposed to be at the exact right time. And I'm always guided, and that I'm doing the right thing. And that feels really good. And reminding myself that some of these rituals are important, because what happens is your ego can step in and say to you, Tepsii, you don't really need to do that today. You got this. right? You're, really successful. You just had like, all these awesome high dollar months. You just could step back and chill. And then, next thing you know, you step back and chill, one day turns into 3 to 4, and a month goes by, and all of a sudden you are wondering, why don't I feel like myself, right? And it's through teaching and through talking about these things and through interacting with people that we really learn, and we remind ourselves to keep up these practices, keep up this work. It's super important for you to be connected and in flow.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Where is the best place to find you and connect with you online?
So the best place to find me is my website. It's called Tepsii.com, and it's TEPSII.com. And for our listeners of this amazing summit, I have created a page at www.tepsii.com/flow, where you can go and get your exclusive gift that will be related to what we've been talking about here today. And if you're interested, especially in knowing more about the persuasion sequence that I mentioned, and exactly where in the step to plug and play the different things that I talked about, that is where you can find it. So Tepsii.com/flow. And otherwise, you can go, check out everything on my website. I've got lots of stuff going on. And I also have a Facebook group called Copy Besties. So if you're interested in connecting personally, you can find me in there, and you can go to copybesties.com and just click on the black button. It'll take you to our Facebook group. So either one of those places, and I know that you'll probably be providing the links to the people. So I'm really excited.
They're going to be right underneath. So just click on the link underneath and go and find her. Your website is stunning. I was just complimenting it because I've obviously been stalking you before this. And I was just like, this is so pretty. And so it's worth a look. Go and check out.
Thank you.
It's really pretty. Amazing. Thank you so much, Tepsii. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we'll find you online. We're going to come. Everybody will be coming to stalk you. So I just really appreciate you and your time.
Thank you very much, and I'll see everybody very soon. And of course, you, Joanna, I really want to thank you for putting this together, because these are some of the things that are not talked about and not mainstream necessarily in our world. We're always talking about the marketing strategy and how to get your next or your first paying client, or, all these different things. But how do we kind of do that while feeling good in our bodies and meeting our divine purpose? So I just want to thank you for putting this on, and I'm really excited to see the rest of the speakers in the summit, and I'll see you guys all soon.
Thank you again. Bye, love.